Hello Marvel Heroes fans, you may have checked out my previous videos on a review for the Grade 80 Legendary. I've covered for the physical, mental, energy, range and melee, so do check out those two videos if you are curious about which Legendary is for you for the Grade 80 one. Now, I have a special love for Summoner because my wife loves Rocket Raccoon a lot, and I always give a lot of attention when I build my Summoner because I try to help her out as well. And for Summoner, there's only one Legendary called the Trident. So now if you come to this Quartermaster here, you could actually upgrade your or get a new Legendary for 1000 OD mark. Now if you look at all these stats here, it looks good. But what does it really mean, right? Because, you know, as far as Summoner is concerned, there's no other options. The only option is that, does this worth your hard-earned OD mark? That's as simple as that. If it doesn't really help that much, why bother, right? So I've set out, it's my mission to set out to understand how this works for Grade 80 Trident. Okay, looking at this Legendary is a little bit different from the rest of the videos I've got, because for the rest of the heroes like those pure hero, no summoner, it's very easy to understand relatively, because you just need to derive all these numbers and say, okay, I add up all these numbers as my normal damage, multiply by all those crit and brutal, that give me an average damage. So that model works best for all those. But how about Summoner? Summoner is hard because, you know, some damage come from hero, some damage come from Summoner, some power is split between two like Iceman. So it is really hard. So what I do is that I reverse engineer. I look at all the power and I understand from a DPS perspective, from a damage per second perspective. I reverse engineer looking from the outcome with or without the Trident, and then then I understand, okay, fine, with a Trident I get a certain amount of increase in performance. What about for level 80? So I extrapolate to Grade 80, all right? Now all these are just number. Whether I'm correct or not, nobody really knows, right? But I do have some internal number in mind, because I know that for any given hero using a Grade 70 Legendary, you gain about what, 10, 11, 12% of performance overall, right? And I also have gone through some of the calculation for the if you pick the right Legendary, meaning Axe for physical, Rod for energy, and Warlock for mental, you get about 20 to 24, maybe even more for the Grade 80, all right, Legendary. So these are the numbers I have in mind for my expectation for both a Grade 70 and Grade 80 Legendary. So how does it fare in terms of like, that is my calculation correct or whatnot? So I use those as benchmark when I look into Trident, and I use two heroes, not just one, because I use two extreme. One is Iceman, which is the best of all summoner you can get in the game right now, and one is the Rocket Raccoon. That's still an old design, a little bit underpowered, actually quite a fair bit underpower, but it's still nevertheless a summoner. So how does it fare in terms of like Trident for both Iceman and Rocket Raccoon? So here's the mathematic bits, and in case you can't stay on for the rest of the video, because my video tends to be a little bit long, mainly for those who are really into mathematics, the quick answer is get Trident for your hero. If you have 1000 OD mark, and if you love your hero a lot, go for it. All right, you won't regret. But for the rest of the viewers who's into mathematics and how I derive Mixon claims, here's my result. All right. So okay. So if you look at the Iceman, so first of all I take off the Trident. So I look at the Iceman power. Iceman I only have Ice Beam, which is the Iceman power. It has a certain like a channel power, is a damage per second, twice per second. It has Ice Slick as well, the vulnerability debuff. It is also a damage over time, but this one is not channeled, right? And then he has also have something called Work of Art, whereby 30% of summon ally damage go into this Work of Art damage. So it has a cooldown of 12 seconds, a direct damage of 370,000. So all these are without crit, without brutal, by the way, and damage per second work out to be this one over divided by this one, because you want to know what is a sustained damage across that time. And then Iceman also have an absolute zero, which is like a damage twice per second for 5 seconds with a 40-second cooldown that gives you a sudden. Again, the damage over time prorated on that 45-second window. And last but not the least, his Ice Golems, which he can summon up to 3 of them. I time it myself on the attack speed because Ice Golem actually hit quite slow. Well, it's not that slow, and but I do have to time it because the tooltip doesn't tell you how fast the Ice Golem hits, and it hit also with the direct damage. It also has a damage over time component to it, because being around Ice Golem, the enemy takes 21,000 damage on average, and also there are 3 of them, so I have to multiply by 3. So all this number add up to quite a fair bit. All right, and I want to separate the hero damage over per second versus summon damage per second. I'll tell you why. It is for the simple fact that the pet work in a completely, it's very different from the hero. The pet doesn't scale up in terms of the crit damage rating as well as brutal damage rating. So when I calculate on those numbers and so on, I have to separate the two, right? So one is affected by the crit damage rating, brutal damage rating, which is Iceman, the hero himself, while Iceman pets the Ice Golem does not benefit from the crit damage rating. All right, so that's why I need to know from the damage I've get from the DPS I've get from the hero overall, which portion of it from the hero and which portion from the pet. All right. So Work of Art is a little bit strange because Work of Art, 30% of a summon ally damage actually go into Work of Art. So my summon ally damage is 422 before all the procs and so on, doesn't matter. 30% of it is 127. So I know that it has been increased by a certain amount. So I can separate Work of Art DPS into the bucket on the hero and the bucket on the pets. All right. So it rounds up to be 25% of the damage come from hero, while 75% come from pet, which is along my expectation. I've done some video before on Rocket Raccoon, so it is along my expectation. All right, so that one is without Trident, and then I put a Trident on. Now Trident has 50% summon ally damage as well as 50% crit hit rating, as well 500 crit hit rating, 500 damage rating. In this power model, you won't see the crit. That's why I need another model coming along. But what you see here is that all these numbers are affected by 50% summoned ally damage for the summoned power and 500 damage rating on the hero is himself. All right. So overall, by and large, you see an increase. Okay. So all these pink colors are the different with or without Trident. So with Trident, I'm getting a certain increase about 5% each. On the hero's power, about 8% each on the summoned power, and so on. All right. So by and large, I can tell that my hero DPS actually goes up by close to 5% with a Trident, and then also the summon damage actually goes up by about 8.6%. Now, but that is before the crit and brutal, and that's why I need another spreadsheet to show you how that works. All right, so this is not the end game here for the Trident. We are talking about both sides. Damage, as always, is normal damage, which is what you see here, multiplied by the crit or brutal. All right, so that is important to recall this part of the calculation. So now this is really exciting because the good thing about the Grade 80 Trident is that it is actually a double up of everything. So instead of 50 summon ally damage, it becomes like 100. Instead of like 500 for the damage rating and the crit hit rating, it go into 1000 region. All right, so that is beautiful. Why is it that way? Because the next part of the video is about comparing between a Trident, which is a Grade 70 versus the Grade 80 Trident. Okay, so these 4 numbers come from the spreadsheet that we have seen before. We have know the hero DPS and the pet DPS with and without Trident. We can extrapolate because by and large, damage rating is being scaled up without diminishing return. Also, summon ally damage also without diminishing return. So you can extrapolate what you get from the hero and the pet DPS. And the great thing about crit hit rating is that it is not affecting this part of this calculation, because this part is only on the normal damage, okay? Normal DPS. Now, then after that, we look into a crit, all right? So for Iceman, I'm getting like a certain amount of crit, together with the synergy without a trident. Then I've got energy crit. I got energy synergy as well, so you get a little bit higher. Now the crit actually go into a pet. The brutal go into a pet. What doesn't go into pet is crit damage rating. So my hero has a crit damage rating of 242. My pet, I believe, all right. So I believe that it is being fixed at 150. All right, that's my understanding. But if I'm not correct, please let me know. All right, because nothing modified. The pet's crit damage rating is not being modified, and 150 is in this game what the base crit damage rating is. And also for brutal, for my Iceman is about 45.2% for the brutal strike rating, and the brutal damage rating for my Iceman is 453%. Again, for the pet, it's being fixed at 300. So, if you roll a brand new hero, level 1 or whatnot, you look at the crit damage rating and the brutal damage rating is always 150, 300. So that is the baseline, all right? So, for the Trident, what I need to do is that I need to simulate with the 500 crit hit rating. How does it affect the, how does it affect my crit? It will add up for quite a fair bit, because there's a diminishing return, so it's sort of like it worked that way. You got 48% versus 52% if I equip the grade 80. All right. So now this is the defining moment, right? So what is the ultimate number says? The ultimate number tells you that with all this being factored in, all right, the average hero DPS is being boosted in a certain way from the hero and pet perspective, and the overall is beautiful, right? If I have a Trident, I'm gaining 11% overall performance. This is in line with any other analysis I've done in my previous video when I look into She-Hulk, Punisher, Invisible Woman, whatnot. The grade 70 legendary, whichever you pick, by and large is about 10 to 12%, 1% difference. So 11% is in line with my expectation, right? And with the Trident, I'm getting actually 22.8%, which is also along with my expectation, because if I look at the what I've gained from the Axe, as well as what I've gained from the Cosmic Control Rod, I'm getting around that kind of number as well, which is 22%, 20, maybe 22, 24, whatnot. It's only the Warlock's Eyes I'm getting a lot more, because the two heroes that I picked for mental analysis, they are not really like the top tier hero, right? So, but if I look at the top tier summoner, top tier physical, top tier energy, you're looking at this number, which is very encouraging. That is exactly the kind of number that I'm looking at, right? So it is not a waste of Olimar if you want to upgrade your Trident or get a better Trident, because you are gaining quite a fair bit on that as well. So that's good news for all the summoners out there. But that's only for Iceman. Is he an outliner or not? Whatnot? So let's take a look at the Rocket Raccoon, okay? For Rocket Raccoon, it's slightly different. Rocket Raccoon has a photon minigun, which is about, if you look at the DPS of the single spender, actually quite similar to Iceman, but Rocket also has a damage over time as well, which is for Iceman is Ice Lick, for Rocket Raccoon is M78 Plasma Launcher. For the pets wise, Rocket Raccoon can have 4 blaster turret, 2 suppression turret. Again, I have to time it myself to find out the attack speed. So all these are like approximation, all right? But by and large, I mean, I multiply by 4, multiply by 2, and then this is his signature. I can execute 4 times within a certain number of seconds, but he has a 25-second cooldown, so I work it out as well what's the DPS. Groot has 2 abilities to it. Groot has a passive, like he just keep hitting on his own, that is about, work out to be this amount, and also have a summon that you can charge Groot that you should totally work it into your rotation as well, which work out to be this number. So if you look at the hero and summon DPS, you are looking at the spread between like 30, 70 kind of thing, which is very similar to what Iceman is. And And now you look at with Trident, all right? So with Trident, the number of course changes a little bit. You're gaining about 5.4% for the hero DPS and 9.9% on the summon DPS. All right. So this is the kind of number I'm looking at. The only difference between the Raccoon and Iceman, for me at least, is that I roll crit for his fixes, thinking that that will benefit the pet as well. I'll do my analysis once more to see whether I should still stick on it or actually I should do crit damage rating. But regardless, Rocket Raccoon, Trident, exactly the same analysis I've done for Iceman, and the number is actually quite similar in a sense. It is around the 10% whatnot range for the rank. For rank 70, it's around 20% for the for Trident as well. Now, of course, bear in mind that the way that I gear my hero is a little bit different, because I think if I shift my crit affixes from the costume to crit damage, I may see a closer percentage in terms of Iceman. But I'm still looking at the kind of range that I'm seeing here. It's very encouraging. So, in closing, I would say that for Summoner, if you love the hero, just get a grade 80 Trident if you have the kind of like Odima. All right. So just to recap, physical is Axe. All right. Energy is Rod. Mental is Warlock, and Summoner is Trident. For the rest of the legendary items, especially Gungnir and Nullifier and Northstone, don't ever use those. All right, so these are your go-to legendary if you can. All right, in my next video I'm going to look into hybrid and see whether hybrid still have a chance against hero that has the grade 80 legendary equipped, because some hero does both damage and unless you do something like pure range, that go for the bow, which is still inferior compared to the pure damage type of legendary, so or even cascade. So yeah, I hope this video is useful, and as always, you can drop me a comment and query and so on. Stay tuned for my next video, which is the last video on the legendary grade 80 legendary review. All right, have a nice day. Bye.